Yeah, so today we will study the Autowire attribute of the bean. So today we'll study Autowire attribute. Which attribute? Autowire. Okay, and it has two main attributes. Okay, so you can do Autowire by type, or you can do Autowire by name also. Okay, so you can do by type or you can do by name. Now what I mean by Autowire is the secondary, the non-primitive injection, okay, the association, right? So we have a class student and we also have a class address, correct? Yes, no, maybe.
Yes, sir.
So the student is associated with an address, so I have a reference of that over here. Is this making sense to you all? The student has an address, right?
Yes,
So
sir.
what is this called as? Association, right? When a class has a reference of another class, correct? So how would I inject this address from the bean if I was using setters? In the bean I would have a property, right?
Yes, sir.
And that property would have two values, name and a reference, remember?
Yes, sir.
So name, I'll give whatever is the name of this address, and reference I'll give from, I will have an existing bean, right, of address. Let's say A1. So here I am in which bean? I am in bean ID equals to S1, name equals to, class equals to student. I am currently in this bean. ID equals S1, bean close. Then I will have one more bean. What will be the ID of that bean? So whatever properties you want to give inside this bean. Okay, so whatever data members this has, it will have those many properties. So we had property for house number and locality, something like that we had, right? Building name, I guess, flat number and building name. So it will have those many properties. Blah blah. So I'll show it to you all over here what I'm trying to say. So now if in my student class, at which line is the association? Line number 15, correct?
Yes, sir.
So as I'm injecting via setters, there should be some set address, get address, right? Then how do I inject this?
Yes.
So in my bean make a I make a address bean, correct?
Yes, sir.
And then in the property I come and inject it over here as a reference. Make sense to you all?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now what I will do is, when I say Autowire, I don't have to give any referencing. When I say Autowire, I'll remove this part. Okay. Now how will the student pick up the address? So I will just say Autowire over there. So I will just do what? Autowire. Which attribute? Which attribute am I using? Auto wire.
Autowire, sir.
Okay. And auto wire, by which way I'm doing? I'm doing by the type. Auto wire by what?
Type.
Yes, as I give equal to, you will see the option. So I give over here by type. So by type means for the non-primitive dependency injection, for the this will auto wire will work only for non-primitives. Okay. So for non-primitive, which non-primitive does it need? Which non-primitive does it need?
Address.
Address. So it will go inside the XML file, and if it gets any bean of that which qualifies, okay, which is an eligible candidate, so how many beans are eligible candidate for address in this? How many beans are eligible candidate for address? How many beans of address class over here?
One, sir.
One. So it will pick that and associate it with the student. I don't have to give it over here. So I remove that dependency. You see, after before mobile number, I guess we had that after the name, right? Over here we had. I will getting what I'm trying to say.
Yes, sir.
For the non-primitive dependency injection, when I say auto wire by type, it will go and search for the bean for which type? Address. And if it gets a bean of address type, it will inject that dependency from here. I don't have to give a reference type. So now if I run this code, it will run perfectly as it ran before. So where am I? Let's go here. 1. And there should be no problem at all. It will pick up the address, flat number 15 from my class. Am I not displaying the address? Am I not displaying the address in display? The display, aren't we displaying the address? Because if we were displaying and it did not get, it would have shown null pointer exception. Okay, we are showing over here, see 15. Getting? So if I come over here and I change the flat number to 16, let's say flat number to 16. Now I have not given any association. See, now after your student name here at this place, we had the property reference equals to address. I removed the reference and I just told this class that auto wire. So whichever eligible candidate you get of the address class, you associate that directly. So now I've changed the address to 16, right? So it will still pick up this bean. So if I do a rerun, it will show me 16. Oh no, it will not run from here. Now if you cancel, it will run. And I don't want this out class. So I come here, run as Java application, and it will pick up and it says 16, I guess. It will have shown over here 16. Got it? Yes, no, maybe?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now the problem will arise, what if it has two eligible candidates? So what if it has two addresses? So if I go to the bean and if I make two classes of address, now a person can have two address, right? Permanent address and local address. Okay, so now let's say this is your permanent address and this is my temporary address. Okay, permanently I stay at Brahma Classic and temporary I'm just now staying at flat number 101 and Brahma Majestic. Okay, now what will happen? Now there will be two eligible candidates, correct? So this will throw an error that you are trying to auto wire a non-primitive, but I see that there are two eligible candidates. So which one do I take? Okay, so this will throw an error if you run the code right now, and that read the error message completely. You'll understand what is the error. See, the error has come up. So now, see, as a developer, no, your task is read the error message completely. Okay, never get intimidated or afraid by error messages. No, so just drag the error. This is the error. Drag it to the end and read the error message completely. What it says: unsatisfied dependency expressed through bean property address. There are two beans. There are two beans of what type? com.enumtech.model.address available for Autowire, temporary and permanent. They should have been exactly one. Okay. Now which one should I consider? It is telling. So then I will say, okay, now at the moment I am staying at my permanent address. So I don't want a temporary address to be considered. So to the temporary address, I will say Autowire-Candidate false. There is one more attribute called as Autowire-Candidate. So I go to this temporary and I tell it over here Autowire-Candidate. Autowire-Candidate false. Now this is not eligible for auto wiring. Now this temporary address is not eligible for auto wiring. So now still I have only one option right now, which is my permanent address. So this error will be resolved. And now if I do a run, I should get my code should run. Okay, and it has taken the value from where? From 16. 16 was which bean? 16 was which bean? Permanent bean. And 101 was, so now if I say, okay, if I tell this bean that now I've shifted to my temporary address, okay, like I've come here now, okay, so I'll say Autowire-Candidate this as false, that, and I want this as my Autowire. By default it is true. By default Autowire-Candidate is true, so I can remove this. No need to give true. Even if I don't give anything, it is by default considered as true. Now my flat number will be 101. Now try. You can try over here. Right click and here, that's Java application. Now your flat number will be 101. Got it? Who all understanding what's happening over here? What auto wire? Okay. Now you can also do by auto wire by name also. Auto wire by name. So what you'll have to do is, in my class, I have given the address as what name? Address as address. Okay. So what I can do is I can make a bean by the name address. So I can make a bean by the name as address. Okay, by the same name what is there in the class. And now this is going to be injected in which class? The student class, right? So there I say Autowire by name. Autowire by name. Okay, so it will go and check. How it checks? It will first go and check bean which has class as address and whose ID is address. This should be the class. Okay, this should be the class and this should be the ID. So if there is any bean whose class is of this and whose ID is of this type, then it will pick up. Okay, so let's say the student has one more dependency. The student has one more dependency that the student also has there's one more class. Let's say if I make one more class over here, if I make one more class over here, student has let's say login, assuming just a random class I'm making login, and now I want to associate this with the student. So I come here and I say login, and if I name that login also as address, if I just name the login also as address, okay, now this address over here first it checks the class. Class should be address and ID should be address. So here it will point to this one. This, the variable name is address but the class is login, so this it will not inject that dependency to the login class. Are you all getting what I'm trying to say? When I say by name, no, when I say by name, so it goes and first checks the eligible candidates. So there are how many eligible candidates of the class address and whose ID is address? One, right? So it will inject that. So it will inject this because here I have told depend Autowire by name. So Autowire by name, it will go and first check the exact name for that very class. Making sense? Let's try to run this and see what happens. Okay, it has picked it up from there. So now if I wanted to inject my permanent address, then if I wanted to inject my permanent address, then what would I do? Change the name of this to address. Okay, and just give this as whatever address one. So now if I run my application, it will say 101. Okay, are you all trying to understand what I'm trying to show? What was Autowire? For Autowire, if you observed, I first had given this address. So even though this is saying Autowire-Candidate false, so Autowire-Candidate will work only for the types, only for the when I say type. Okay, when I say by name, it will pinpoint that bean which is of that class and has that name. So Autowire candidate is irrelevant when I use by name. It is only relevant when I use by type. So now I have given, so whichever bean is of address class and his ID is address, it will automatically pick up even if the Autowire candidate is showing over here false. See, so I am saying Autowire candidate false and I am using address. What is the address? 16. So if I run this code, it will still run successfully. Showing me 16. Getting? So Autowire candidate will work only for by type, not by name.